Hey, this is asynchronous work for chapter 9-3, leftover questions. I'm sorry, 9-2, and page 563, the confidence interval and compared to hypothesis test. So I use, this is non-smokers, a question about high school students who have experience smoking cigarette. Okay, so confidence interval gives more info. So Taehyon found that 90 of an SRS of 150 students said that they had never smoked a cigarette. And we checked the condition and for performing the significance test earlier before we construct confidence interval for the population proportion P, true P, right? And we should check that the both n times P hat and n times Q hat, which is complement of success, at least 10. Because the number of successes and the number of the failure in the same sample are 90 and 60 respectively, and we can proceed the calculation. So calculation is, since the p hat is, let's see, 90 out of 150. So let's see, 90 out of 150. So 90 divided by 150. So it's going to be 0.6. That's a p hat. So plus minus, so this is called from the p hat, right, and q hat. So it must be standard error, right? So z star is for 95% z star confidence in confidence interval. 95% is, you go to let me check that z star, which is let's see, was invert norm, right? Invert norms. Number 3, area for one side is 95 is 0.025. I hope you remember. The mu is 0, standard deviation is 1, right? And left or right, whichever, so I would choose left. And paste. So it's going to be 1.96. So 1.96 plus minus, right? So plus minus 1.96 and the standard error. So Q hat is now, we know 0.6. So, okay, so 0.6 times complement of 0.6 is 0.4, close bracket, and divide by 150 high school students and Taehyon's sample, right? This is sample. So it's going to be, wait. And this is standard error, okay? And multiply by 1.96. Oh, what am I doing? Times 0.04, I believe. Okay, so 0.078. So the that's called margin of error. So 1.96 times this standard error is called margin of error here. So 0.6 plus minus 0.078. So you subtract first is 0.522 and add is going to be 0.678. So the conclusion is we're not sure what the true P is, but we are 95% confident that the interval from 0.522 and 0.678 capture the true P. True P of the students at the Taehyon's high school who have never smoked a cigarette. Maybe I mentioned earlier who has experience smoking, but that, that was a percentage of who never smoked a cigarette, okay? So make sure you conclude this way. So why we did this? Because we did earlier in the class, we did the hypothesis test, right? Hypothesis test at the, what we did is 50-50 chance, right? That's from the Center of Disease Control Prevention website. It was 50-50 chance that as high school students have a experience at least once to smoke a cigarette. But Taehyun's high school, as the survey was different, which is 60% and 40%, right? Um, so 60% have never smoked before, and 40%, yes, they have experience of smoke. So that's why we did the hypothesis test and how rare this happens. How rare? This rare. We ran the hypothesis test and we came up the Z-score was 2.44, which is only 1.43% of chance to hit that low. The interpretation is compared to alpha level 0.05, it's quite a rare case. So we reject null hypothesis. What is a null hypothesis? If you remember, is it didn't change from the national survey, which is 50% of chance they have smoke. Taehyun's high school was 60%. That is rare? Yes, it's rare. How rare? This rare. The Z-score was too high, 2.499, and that the p-value is so low, 0.0143, which is less than alpha level, okay? So we reject null hypothesis, okay? So what we did here, we did the confidence interval. Look, confidence interval didn't capture 0.5. So how often do we miss uh, how often do we miss in uh, this interval? 5 out of 95 times, right? So that rare, and not only that rare, but also it's 0.5 might be way too low too, you know, so on to this side. So you can read this 563 and you can read more descriptions. So this is the first video. And now you can explain after you read this. And if you have any question, you can come to me. But anyway, we sometimes use confidence interval. This is confidence interval for Minitab, like a computer output, and they're showing this one sample Z test, 90 success out of 150, right? And that becomes 0.6, that's the p hat. Through that p hat, what's the confidence interval? So this is, we did calculate, and Z-score was 2.45. What's the Z-score of 2.45, both directions, both tails? That is 0.014. So compared to 0.05 alpha level, this is too low. Okay, this is the end of the video, first video, and watch for the second